It's really a great pleasure to have our colleagues from Abington here today, Jill Kyle and Lori Ferro. I'll say a little bit more about them in a moment. But before I talk about our guest speakers, I want this. So this is a public service announcement. For those of you who heard about the fact that the Bacon Brothers were on campus last year for an innovation fundraiser, they'll be back. And ironically, they're going to be back on the same date as last year, except there will be two big differences. It's actually on campus. It's going to be at Jefferson Alumni Hall, and it's on a Friday night instead. The date was chosen by the health students who actually run the event, and that's kind of an interesting story about how all that came to be. But this is actually part of a larger strategy that we're involved in trying to drive innovation with some city leaders and some other folks. You'll be hearing more about that coming down the pike. It's not something we can really get into the details on today, but when we do tell you about it, it will be, I think, pretty exciting for people that are interested in the sort of the connectivity and creativity between music and technology and big thinking. So I'll just leave you with that little hint. But today, we're going to talk about some of the big thinking that goes on at Abington, and actually has been going on for quite a while. We here at Jefferson, when Dr. Klasko came, the innovation pillar was created. My colleague Robin Sheldon and I lived in a foxhole for a little while, and then the rest of our staff lived in a large conference room that looked more like a rabbit warren than it did like a set of offices. Bob DeHaven is one of the few people who survived it. But in that process, we learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot about what was possible here at Jefferson. And then when this relationship with Abington got knit together, then we also had to learn about Abington and what Abington was about. And they're about some pretty amazing things. Before I introduce our speakers and say a little bit about my experience with them, I also want to acknowledge that we had the wisdom and the great fortune to be able to acquire Anthony Sorrentino. He's our Abington acquisition. This is the best way to think of him. Anthony brings tremendous energy and skill to our innovation pillar. And so the integration of Abington and Jefferson is very real on many, many levels. But what was really cool about meeting Lori and meeting Jill was finding out all of the things that they were already doing. So it was a little bit of a relief for me and Robin, because we were like, oh my God, okay, so they're really doing stuff. So this is great. It wasn't like we had to sell them on the idea that this was, that innovating in very fundamental ways was important for institutional growth, for critical thinking expansion, and for new kinds of opportunities to develop within the enterprise and outside the enterprise, connecting to our enterprise. So I'm going to turn this over to the amazing Jill Kyle, who leads the foundation, but it in no way captures all of the things that she does, and then Jill will introduce in more detail our colleague and friend. Oh, there you are. I was like, where did she go? She's behind me. So without further ado, Jill Kyle.
Thank you, Donna. Yes, but it's not the first slide. So we are very excited to have the opportunity to share some of the strategic initiatives that were put into place to foster innovation at Abington Hospital here today. Innovation has become quite a buzzword. I mean, you cannot not hear the word innovation in academic and healthcare settings today. It seems like we're using this word every other sentence. But 12 years ago, that wasn't the case. And when we were asked to give this presentation today, it really gave Lori and me time to pause and revisit what we've accomplished in the past 12 years at Abington Hospital. And I think you will agree, hopefully at the end of this conversation, that our Innovator Circle program that we started 12 years ago has truly helped us create a culture of innovation at Abington. Oops. Before I get into the program details, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Abington and who we are, in case you're not familiar. Abington Health entails Lansdale Hospital and Abington Hospital and its affiliates. For today's purposes, we're focusing on Abington Hospital. Abington is licensed for 665 beds. We are a non-for-profit hospital, as is Jefferson. And with that, we have Abington Health Foundation, which raises funds to financially support Lansdale Hospital, Abington Hospital, and its programs to benefit the health and well-being of our community. So Lori and I work with the foundation. We are a regional referral center and a teaching hospital. We have 5 residency programs, family med, internal med, general surgery, dentistry, and gynecologic and obstetrics. We deliver approximately 5,000 babies a year, so we have a huge mothers and children's program. We were founded in 1914, and we have been serving Montgomery, Bucks, and Philadelphia counties for over 100 years. We're a level 2 trauma center. Until very recently, we were the only trauma center in Montgomery County, and Lankenau just opened a trauma center. We have over 6,000 employees, over 1,000 physicians. We have independent physicians, affiliate physicians, about 200 are employed. We have 1,100 volunteers. We are so fortunate in our community and with our long history in the community, not only do we have these wonderful volunteers that share their time and talents with Abington, we also are very fortunate to have a huge donor base that share their wealth and help us with our philanthropic fundraising as well. We provide over $45 million of free care to our community each year. So now, a little bit about the evolution of innovation at Abington. This goes back to 2003. In 2003, we applied for magnet status. We were the first acute care hospital in Pennsylvania to receive magnet status. There were 13 others in Pennsylvania at the time. But when our surveyors were leaving, we had a leadership closing meeting, and the surveyors said that they really wanted our nurses to do more evidence-based research initiatives. So immediately, the nurses started calling our grant writers and asking for help, whether it be for $10,000, $12,000 for their research projects. And of course, I wanted our fundraisers to be focused on $500,000, $1 million grant gifts. So I realized that it was very necessary that we could find a source for funds for these initiatives. And yes, we are fundraisers. So I know you're sitting out there and saying, what are 2 fundraisers doing here today, giving us a presentation about starting a culture of innovation at Abington? But I will tell you that philanthropy often drives strategy. And innovation is an exciting program to fund. We had a board that didn't have much turnover at the time, and we needed a way to engage those techno-cool donors that had the venture capital mind, those 40-something difficult donors to reach. 40-something-year-olds, you know, they don't use the hospital much, hopefully. Their parents aren't yet there, and their kids maybe break an ankle, they come to the ER, but they're not really very engaged. And that's a type donor that we're looking to engage. So we thought if we started something like this Innovator Circle program that we're going to tell you about today, that this would be a way to engage those techno-savvy donors. We also wanted to engage our physicians and nurses. I don't have to tell you, and I'm not sure if this happens here, but when somebody, a physician, got on the elevator with me and realized that I was from the Office of Institutional Advancement, they usually tried to pry the doors open and hop off right away, and they were holding their wallet with their right hand on the way out the door. They were worried that I was going to ask them to support the hospital. And now, I joke about that, but that's not always in jest. And now I can tell you that physicians hop on the elevator with us. And they say, wow, you know, we were talking about a problem the other day, and I think that Innovators Circle could help us find a solution. What do you think about this idea? And they're often really excited to talk and share their ideas with us. I'll share that with you when I find it. I wanted to share, just for example, that so when we decided to start fundraising around the Innovator Circle, we also found some innovative ways to fundraise. And this is one of our fundraising appeals that went out in the mail, and it told a story about innovation at Abington, but we actually included a pack of sunflower seeds, and we asked our donors if they would help us plant the seeds for innovation. So we look at this Innovator Circle program as a way for our employees who are closest to the issues to test their ideas and hypotheses, and that we would offer them seed money to do so. Now I would like to show you a quick video of Dr. Chris Christensen. He unfortunately could not be here today due to his clinical schedule, but Dr. Christensen is one of our pulmonologist, critical care associate physicians. He's chair of our Innovator Circle Executive Committee, and he's also chair of the IRB at Abington.
I have had my hand and love for clinical research as it's evolved here at the hospital, and this is kind of an offshoot of that, whereby we have been able to recruit donors to support seed money for innovative individuals here, staff members who have great ideas for projects. And so we've been able to do this very effectively over these last 8 years. I can think of a number of projects over that period of time that have gone live, that we have a number of national presentations, we have a number of products that are now going to market. That's very exciting for us. And we have several this year that have now been kind of rolled into real time and seem to be very effective. And you're going to hear about those in just a little while. So the Innovator Circle has been developed really to raise support for these men and women who have these great ideas.
That film with Chris was actually 4 years ago, so now our program is 12 years old. Originally, we started this program with a very large committee, which is pictured here, and it allowed us to include lots of laymen from our community that had interest in technology and innovation. And we had an annual cycle where the executive committee would vet applications, so we would have all of our employees knowing about what was available to them, submit applications. We get about 20 applications a year, and the executive committee vets them. They use criteria around innovation, our mission, and sustainability. Usually 8 to 12 applications get moved forward in the process. With this annual cycle, we would then have the application sent out to our committee for rating. We would have a meeting where all of the applicants were invited to come in for a 10-minute presentation where they would share their passion for their project, and then we would have a funding allocation meeting. Now we've actually changed the process and we're on a quarterly cycle. But in the past 12 years, we've had $2 million awarded for innovation, and we've had over 90 projects funded. They've been funded for projects from the $2,500 level to $100,000, all through philanthropic support. We now have a quarterly evaluation process, which has really helped us because after the executive committee vets the applications, some are just not totally baked yet, and the executive committee will offer help to our employees to perhaps find the right solution to get their grant approved. We will offer mentoring to our employees. Many of them have never written a grant before, so we try to offer them support. And now, instead of having to wait a full year to come back to us, they can get back in the cycle the next quarter. And we're using our foundation board as the committee. They love this Shark Tank presentation that they get every board meeting. It takes about an hour every meeting. They're sent the applications in advance, so they are full of questions, and it totally engages them. So Lori and I went through the projects. We put them in 6 buckets, and we're going to share a few projects in each criteria area with you. We have technology and apps, research studies, education, communication, programs, devices, and patient care initiatives. The first I'd like to share with you is around patient care initiatives. One of my favorite projects, this was very early in our program, was brought forth by Diane Humbrick, Gail Harity, and pictured here with them is Terry Riley, who was our CNO at Abington Hospital. Diane is one of our principal investigators in this project, and she's currently on the Innovation Committee for Jefferson. She is terrific to have involved at Abington. She's an extremely innovative person. She and her team identified a problem that will not be news to you. I think we all know it exists constantly, and it's around communication in hospitals. You have a loved one in the hospital. You, the family, are never there at the right time to meet the doctor when they're rounding. It's usually happening at 5:30 in the morning. And then the nurses are overwhelmed with questions and issues, and I think most people, much of their dissatisfaction in the hospital is around communication. So they wanted to find a solution for this problem, and they worked with IT to develop a program that would pull all the pertinent information out of our systems and put it all on one daily care sheet that would be printed off every day, delivered to the patient's bedside, and left on their patient table. And while it sounds so easy, I mean, no one had done this. So this patient daily care plan includes things like who is your mother's doctors, what consults are on, who's her acting attending, does she have any allergies, what medication is she on, what services are planned today, does she have rehab, does she have any procedures, is she on a special diet? So all of this is captured on one sheet. We tested it on 2 floors in the hospital. It was a huge success. They went and presented this at national conferences. It's now been adopted across the nation, and they were awarded by the American Nursing Credentialing Center in 2008 the Magnet Award. The team that won the award the year before us was the Mayo Clinic, so we were pretty proud of the company that we were keeping with this award, and it came with $25,000 that they put towards furthering this. So one great story about this is that Meg McGoldrick, who is the president of Abington Hospital's mom, was in Paoli, and she went in to see her mother, and her mom said, "Look at this. I mean, why aren't you doing this at Abington? This is really neat." And Meg said, "Mom, we created this at Abington." So we even made our president proud, which was really special. They've also since won the 2012 Healthcare Innovation Award for this. So now I'm going to introduce Lori Ferro. Lori is our annual giving officer at Abington. Lori is the person that holds this program together. She's extremely adaptable. I think that the committee has redefined innovation every year for 12 years. We constantly change this program on Lori, and Lori is totally flexible and makes this program work. And she helps every one of our applicants to get through the program, whether it be from time of application all the way through their funding. So now I'd like to introduce Lori Ferro.
Thank you, Jill. I'm pleased to be here today. Thank you. Abington Hospital is located in Montgomery County, which actually has one of the oldest populations in southeastern Pennsylvania. So it was no surprise when very early on in Innovator Circle history, we had some applicants come to us for funding to advance the geriatric programs at Abington. The first grant created a systematic approach to caring for patients at the risk who were at risk for delirium. And then a second grant was a pilot study which resulted in additional grant money that we received from the state of Pennsylvania in 2006 and 2008 that gave us additional funds to be able to train our nurses, educate them, and certify them as well. So we're very proud to be able to leverage the support of innovators and build upon the program. The next 2 grants actually built upon the foundation that was originally started by establishing a geriatric patient and family council, and then we were able to establish a senior activity center on the geriatric specialty floor. So these are examples of programs that were started all in one service line area. And what's very interesting is that the same nurse came to us each time for funding for each of these programs. So she built this elderly-focused care model at Abington, and she was very smart in her approach in that she asked for small amounts of money to test a very specific idea with a finite beginning and end, and was very successful each time. I would now like to take the opportunity to introduce you to someone who's actually received a grant from us. Jill and I could stand up here all day and talk about these projects, but we're not the actual ones who are actually doing them on a day-to-day basis and creating the thought processes behind them. So I'd like to invite Dr. Kandan Kulandaivel, who is with Abington Neurological Associates, who along with his colleagues have received 2 separate grants from us over the past 3 years. Dr. Kulandaivel?
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Lori and Jill. I'm here to talk about 2 projects that was made possible with Innovator Circle grant. I moved from Maine to Pennsylvania about 4 years ago, and since then I see the Innovator grant as a platform that encourages and gives much assistance to providers who have day-to-day problems. We work in the trenches every day. Instead of going with the flow, we see a problem, and it used to be where do we get the solution, and even if I have an idea, where does it become an action? And I would say Innovator Circle has helped us move this thinking into action. The first application that we did was PCOG, Philadelphia Cognitive Exam. It's an iPad-based app. We started baby steps. It's a clinically cognitive testing that can be done by physicians to the patient, which in 2 to 3 minutes you can screen the patients and find out whether they have minimal cognitive impairment or dementia. But why PCOG? It all started one day after long hours. I was talking to my colleague, and why is dementia or cognitive problems underdiagnosed or under-discussed? When we really looked into the reasons, one of the striking reasons is physicians need a lot of time to spend with patients to discuss about Alzheimer's disease. And as you know, in the healthcare situation, non-procedure based physicians disproportionately get reimbursed less. So basically it comes to the time burden. It almost looks like when you spend more time, you are being penalized. So when we looked into solutions, we found that Medicare did have an avenue to reduce the barriers, and there were certain CPT codes which would understandably, help physician not only in keeping the time and also to discuss. We already do this in paper, but there was a need for a app-based program, and me, Dr. Wiseman, designed a 30 questionnaire similar to Mini-Mental, and went for Innovator Circle grant, and we got it approved. So then we started working on about 250 patients. We validated the study along with Montreal Cognitive Assessment Testing. Once we got the development going, then we were able to present in various conferences. And who uses PCOG? Any physician can use PCOG. If there is a family concern or the patient concern, it takes 2 to 3 minutes, and it is reimbursable. And if you have any financial questions, we were well received in the community, and it also generates revenue for the practice as well. And now we see a good response in the App Store, with a lot of retaining. People who use the apps are using again, and we have had a very positive feedback. We're trying, right now it's in the word of mouth, but we're planning to get it to the next level. The second, this was, now that we did apps, then knew how it worked, then we really wanted to address hardcore problems, especially revolving advanced care planning. This was the second project. Healthcare directives, as you all know, is a document that helps patients to tell their doctors what they want to be done when they're not able to tell in a position to, or incapacitated. And as a practicing neurologist, I see this very hard. I see patients in the ER, I see patients in the ICU, and you ask them whether they have advanced care planning, and they'll say, the loved one will say yes, but where is it? The access is always not very easy. So what we thought of addressing the problem, along with the palliative care department chief, we decided maybe also there was a drive from the government that PCPs should take an initiative to get this planning with the patient. So we decided to get a facilitated ACP and creating a registry through a web-based program, and thereby anybody can access their advanced care planning. So we went to an innovator circle. Funny, I remember Lori like grilling me for each and every question, and we went towards the board. We watched Shark Tank. I never watched Shark Tank before, but after that I realized how it is. So and they thought there was definitely a use to this for the community, and we were funded. So Access ACP, it was also, apart from a practicing neurologist, Innovator Circle has made me do things which I would never have dreamt of doing, like using web-based. I know words like Amazon Cloud Service and business associate agreement with like Doximity, NPI registry, and eFax. So we started this a year ago, and our first phase was launched September of last year. And basically how it works is just a way that patient comes, enrolls in the application, watches educational videos like this to get them informed about what questions they have to ask their doctor, and from the portal can send a fax to the provider to get an appointment, and once they meet the doctor takes it from there and fills out the necessary forms, and that gets stored in a cloud computer which can be accessed by providers. So it educates people, so then the physicians ask like, why would we do it? But from their standpoint, again, there are CPT codes that will reimburse them for having the discussion with patients. And for the hospitals, access to this will help them avoid unwanted care or care that the patient wouldn't have wanted. And we are also tracking success rates of physician so that they're measured as a quality care provider to the patients. There was a link.
In a moment of crisis, when you are unable to decide your own medical care, who will decide for you? Will you leave it to an inaccessible piece of paper? Will your family be the ones to face these painful decisions? Will you let chance decide how you die or how you live? Access ACP. Easy access to advanced care planning to help you choose while you are able how you will be cared for when you are not. We'll make sure you learn what's important and that your healthcare providers know how you want to be cared for in your time of need. Visit us at accessacp.com to register and get.
And so hopefully we can take it to the next.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a very basic Final Cut Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the next topic area, which is research studies. We've been very fortunate. We've had, I would say, probably a third of the projects that have come before Innovator Circle have been research-driven. And as Jill mentioned, Abington, we deliver more than 5,000 babies a year. So it was no surprise when a group of physicians from Abington Reproductive Medicine, which is one of our private practices, came to us over for Innovator Circle support. They've actually come before us not once, not twice, but 6 times, and been funded all 6 times for various research projects that they've conducted. This one project that I've highlighted up here for you is actually a randomized trial of heart therapy, and what Dr. Barnett and his colleagues did was study the effects of vibroacoustic heart therapy, so music therapy, on the perceived stress levels of women undergoing IVF therapy. What they did was they provided the live music before, during, and after the therapy. They monitored blood pressure and heart rate. They asked the women how they felt before, during, and after through a questionnaire. And as a result, they found significant reduction in stress levels for these women. The heart therapy is currently offered in their practice to anyone who would like to undergo it. So this was a very successful project, an idea that they had, and very innovative. The doctors were recently funded about a year ago to test something else to help improve pregnancy rates. They're actually growing cultures on glass scaffolding to see how embryos grow on glass scaffolding in the hopes that that cultural condition would be better suited and improve pregnancy rates. So we're very excited to see how that project turns out. The next area is education and communication. So our Director of Graduate Medical Education, Dr. David Gary Smith, has also come before Innovator Circle a couple of times, and the focus of his research was to help medical residents communicate better with patients, to teach them how to communicate with patients early on in their studies. So Let the Patient Speak was a project that involved videotaping patients and their families about their experiences. And this helped to educate the residents by evaluating their ability to connect with patients. In competency-based evaluation and training, he developed an assessment tool to check on milestones, communication milestones, to evaluate internal medicine residents and how their actual patient interactions took place. So they videotaped the actual residents with patients so they could see how they were working and to give them pointers of improvement. A couple of years ago, we received a very large donation to support an important safety initiative with the Innovative Circle program. So we had a group come to us with an idea that's called Safe TV. And basically, it's the creation of videos based on current events that were coming up on a daily basis in clinical practices, at the bedside, in nursing areas. And the idea was to develop short videos, 1 to 3 minute videos, to address whether it was a behavior, a skill, things like hand hygiene, short videos to teach a certain subject area. So they developed this platform. It's called Safe TV. And while the topic areas, somebody that would sit down and take the topic area, write a script for it, it would be vetted, it would be, content specialists would go through to make sure the script was accurate and the information was correct. And then they would engage colleagues to either act in the short video or demonstrate the actual subject area. Over the past 4 years, these videos have become so popular that now we have staff members coming to the Center for Clinical Safety and asking them if they could teach something. So now we've engaged the employees to teach their own clinical subject areas. Obviously, everything has to be vetted and made sure that the content is approved, but now as you can see, this is a list up here on the screen of some of the videos that have been posted in the different topic areas. So this is a very interesting platform for sharing and peer-to-peer training. It would have been very easy for the hospital to purchase canned videos showing different behaviors, but using our own staff members to teach each other is what is really working in this setting. The other part of this whole platform that you see up here is called Show and Share. Because the grant afforded them the opportunity to build this platform, it can also house many other educational videos. So it's become a host for other training videos beyond Safe TV. There's actually over 200 videos on there to date. The Veteran Care Commission was another project that came out of Innovative Circle. Abington had some veteran-friendly activities going on, but nothing formal in place. So we had a group come before us to start a Veteran Care Commission as a way to make Abington more veteran-friendly as an organization. And as you can see here, Dr. Klasko thought highly enough of this program last year to award it the first top-of-the-class award for Abington. And what this group did was they came together and they wanted to make sure that we as an organization knew who the veterans were from the time they were admitted to the hospital throughout their hospital stay. So when they come into the hospital and at the admission desk, there's something in the medical record now that's been embedded with the help of IT and the admissions department so they can actually key in that this person is a veteran. They're also given a flag hospital bracelet so that any clinical member who's working with that patient throughout their time at the hospital knows, and they could engage in conversations with them. But that it didn't stop there. We needed to train our staff to be able to ask the right questions and be culturally competent on the experiences of the veterans in our community, of which there are many. So we held two large trainings with folks from the Veteran Affairs organizations who came in and talked to our case managers and our clinical staff to educate them about the experiences of veterans, different military terms, and then talked about resources available in Philadelphia for them. I'm just going to show you a quick video. Working to educate the admissions team to make sure that we are capturing who these veterans are when they're admitted to the hospital. Okay, now we're on to devices, which I'm going to bring back to Jill.
So you can see we've had many different kinds of programs funded, some warm and fuzzy like the Veterans Program, which is so important, and now I'm going to share some about some devices. I wish more of these physicians could have come down to talk about their own projects, because when you hear them from a layman, they're probably not quite the same or what they should be. But we've had some very interesting devices that have come through the Innovator Circle program. One of our doctors created an amnio syringe, which is an automatic syringe for single-handed amniocentesis. This device will allow physicians to remove amniotic fluid with one hand only, reducing physician strain and posturing. And it will free one hand to concentrate on the ultrasound screen and to be certain that the needle is not impinging on the fetus. Another physician developed a prototype for an artificial mitral valve to deal with calcification in the heart. Dr. Joe Crescetti created a device to treat positional sleep apnea. The Innovator Circle funded his product development for this and a prototype for this. It now has FDA clearance and is for sale with a prescription. And then probably one of my favorite programs, because I want to be in the clinical trial, is Alan Wolk's program. Alan is an ophthalmologist and plastic surgeon. He recently gave this presentation to our foundation board, and I have to tell you, by the time he was over, my phone was ringing off the hook the next day because everybody wants his contact information. But Alan knew that we were all worried about our aging and how our skin changes, and you know, there aren't many approaches to cosmetic surgery. You know, there's a facelift, which is pretty invasive, and then there's injections of fats and fillers, but they're short term. So Alan asked a simple question and made a simple observation that when we are supine and lie down and take away the force of gravity, that we look 20 years younger. So Alan did a study on the role of gravity in mid-facial and periorbital aging. He was published in the Aesthetic Surgery Journal in 2014 for this study. And as you see, when this woman is lying down and her photo is taken that way, she looks like she did when she was young. So for those of you that are going on dating websites, I suggest that you lie down when you take your picture. That way you're not really lying, but you are lying. Anyway, it seems to work. I haven't tried it yet. So he thought about this simple idea. Alan Wolk's father is an engineer, and they thought that his father was helping him to develop a device that is similar to a knitting needle in size that would work for mid-facial rejuvenation. And this knitting needle would go through a small incision on the head and pull up this ligament that would have the same effect as a facelift. So through his funding with Innovator Circle, he got a patent, he made a prototype, he got IRB approval, he did research on 28 patients and created this Generation 2 prototype. His research is still going on today. Now Generation 3 prototype is developed. He has a licensing agreement. New IRB studies are happening with the next clinical trial. He is working now with this device, and I'll show you some pictures. And you can see why my phone was ringing off the hook and why I want to be in this trial. And so he has had great success. And of course, every one of our recipients from grants with Innovator Circle, we ask them that when they present, Alan has published 6 papers and has been to numerous conferences, that they give Innovator Circle the credit for their first funding. So now a little more on programs.
So we've just seen some very high-tech type of innovations, but not all innovation is high-tech. Some ideas are innovative in nature, but they are more programmatic. This particular project is the sacred space in the operating room, and basically it was an effort by a group of nurses to enhance the nurse-patient experience in the operating room. They wanted to find a way to make the patient's entry into the operating room more calming and soothing. So from the traditional operating room, which is normally white walls, very stark, very cold, the patient is afraid, and it could be a very scary experience. So their effort was to combine a healing environment with nurse care and behaviors. So the healing environment includes dim lights, music, or the patient's favorite music, and they actually painted murals on the walls of some of the operating rooms. They combined this with nurse care and behaviors such as eye contact, one-to-one follow-up with the nurse from pre-op to post-op, simple touching enhancements. And actually this idea became so important and popular that it actually also won, besides being a magnet hospital, this won the Magnet Honor Award in 2011 and is also being shared nationally with other hospitals. We started with a couple of operating rooms having murals on the walls, and now we have many operating rooms. And this soothing environment has been really popular. So again, the Magnet Honor was an award for innovation. 2 other projects I want to briefly touch on. Camp Charlie. Camp Charlie is a program that is out of our Safe Harbor program. Safe Harbor is a bereavement program that we have for teens and children. But Camp Charlie is a 1-week summer camp, an expressive arts program for these kids to come for 1 week and use art, drama, and music to express themselves and enhance the healing process. The innovative part of it is the fact that these children are paired up with buddies who have had similar experiences, who have either graduated from the program or graduated from Safe Harbor program. And in 10 years, the camp just celebrated its 10th anniversary. They've had over 500 children come through this program, and it has received accolades. You may have seen it written up in the newspaper, which it has been. It's now self-sustaining through donor support, so they were funded for the program for the first year, and now they've been able to keep themselves going. And the program has actually received numerous awards for the use of volunteers, because we have a huge volunteer contingent in the area. Save Your Souls is a grassroots community outreach program that a local podiatrist, Dr. Ronald Renzi, developed. And actually, he wanted to increase the awareness of racial disparities in amputations and the need for better diabetes management. So he's looking at trends and patterns of where most of these amputations are taking place in the populations in and around the Philadelphia area. And he goes to these areas to provide screenings and education. But he's not doing them, he's doing them in a more proactive way. He's actually going into the populations. He's going into the churches, working with local pastors, with local businesses. He's even gone into barbershops to bring the message to the population he's trying to reach, because they are not coming out to get this information. The team of volunteers that he has now has grown. He started off with just him and maybe one other person doing this, and he has volunteers and medical students assisting him. He's received additional monies from Abington's Martin Luther King Committee, and support through our community health department as well. So now he has larger teams going out with him to provide these screenings. So these are very grassroots efforts, but programmatic efforts, but innovative nonetheless.
So I hope you've enjoyed hearing a little bit about the projects that have been funded. To wrap it up, I just want to say that we truly feel that an Innovator Circle has really created a culture of innovation for us at Abington. When we were applying for our CAPE award in 2010, CAPE recognizes organizational excellence in a number of performance areas, including efficiency, innovation, customer service, and accessibility. We pulled together all of our directors and managers and talked about this application and where we were going to fare in different areas, and were we ready to apply. And I was so pleased to be in the room that when innovation came up, everybody in the room referenced Innovator Circle when it came to innovation. So I thought, wow, we really have helped create a culture of innovation at Abington. And I think that while we do not have a Frederico Jazz building like you all have down here, we have created a virtual center for innovation. Lori, as I said, is the glue that holds that center together. Monica Simon in our office is our grants officer. She assists every employee that needs help developing an application, and she has worked very closely on outside grant funding after their projects are finished and has had great success. So yes, a couple of fundraisers may we be, but I do think that innovation has come from our fundraising project. And I think that innovation is truly an interesting thing to fundraise for. I mean, it really has attracted all the right people and brought, like we were saying, as a feeder into our board, some really new, interesting people that we probably wouldn't have been able to engage otherwise. And I did say that the docs aren't running away from us anymore. As Dr. K will admit, we're nice, and they now look at us as a source of funding. So Abington and Jefferson truly are better together when it comes to innovation. How fortunate were we to now have a CEO that has created an innovation pillar. We now have all of this great staff here that offers help with their innovative projects. They have patent assistance and app development assistance. There's opportunities now to go to the Frederico Jefferson Accelerator Zone. There's Jazz Tank, there's this Innovators Engagement Series, and the Independence Jefferson Health Hack. And I'm pleased to show this last slide, which pictured here are some of our Abington Health, Abington-Jefferson Health employees who contributed their creativity and their energy to address vexing healthcare challenges at the last two health hacks over the last 2 years. As you can see, we had a first place and a finalist this year and a first place last year. So we have really enjoyed being involved with all that's going on here. So I thank you for your time, and I thank Dr. K for coming down here with us, and Lori for working so hard on this presentation. And we'd like to entertain any questions that you may have.
Amazing colleagues from Abington. Somebody want to start off with a question for our Abington colleagues? People are making things happen out there.
So, as you know, the innovation at Jefferson is primarily focused on commercial opportunities. A lot of your innovation opportunities are non-commercial. Is there an opportunity for Jefferson people to go to the Abington Innovative Circle?
We have talked about that. At this point, the donors that supported the Innovative Circle program did it through the Abington Health Foundation. So we feel that monies need to stay in Abington at this point in our community. If there's a Jefferson employee that is going to be working in Abington as well, or that Abington can in some way share in that, I think absolutely, because we are one now. We just want to make sure that our donors feel that their dollars are affecting Abington Hospital where they made their original gift. And we hope that some of these projects will become commercial. But what's really neat is a lot of this, as you see, has been dealing with issues that our employees have identified that need help in Abington now. And we were worried that people were feeling like their idea had to be something that was totally innovative that no one had ever thought of before. And we've actually reached out to our employees and said, we want our patient satisfaction numbers to go up. We have so many areas with patient safety that we really want to work on, that if you even see something at a conference somewhere else that we don't do yet at Abington and we can put an innovative twist on it, let's work on it, because if it's something that will improve the services we're offering at Abington, we want to make dollars available to them.
Anyone else want to pick up with a question? Glenn, you look curious.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, my perpetual question, my name's Glenn Odiger, at the risk of getting in trouble with this question. How do you convey the spirit of innovation and truly, rethinking from other people's perspectives, how we do things? Someone who might not agree with, your perspective. How do you, in your experience, do that when you're faced with a conflicting set of opinions on how to move ahead with an innovative idea or solution?
Well, I would answer that question with our application process, which is somewhat rigorous. We do have a pre-screening committee that reviews the applications, and there's about 10 people in the room from different clinical levels who look at the project. We have, the medical end of it, the business end of it. Everybody has legal end of it. Everybody has to somewhat be in agreement to move the project forward to the stage where it would go before the board for funding. Yeah. And again, when it goes before the board, some of those same questions may come up again. But it has to be a majority opinion to approve the project to move forward. And in some cases, there may not be everybody on the board who agrees with every project, but the majority will get the project approved. And in some cases, like as Jill said, we are providing seed money. Not every project is going to be successful. We've highlighted some of the more successful ones here today. And there are some that, testing an idea, the idea may not work. So here's $5,000, $10,000, and at the end of it, it may not have had the result that they were looking for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And one thing that I would follow up with is that the jam that's going on right now.
Yeah.
At Jefferson, I think is a really cool approach to getting people in a room with great ideas to really get down to what we're dealing with on the front lines. And so I'm really excited to see what comes out of it, and I think it's an awesome parallel to a musical jam session where people improvise and end up in the end with a masterpiece. So.
And that's what I saw at the Health Hack. I didn't realize, until I was there, that people from all walks of life can be joining these teams that are coming up with these great ideas. And you don't have to be the originator of the idea, but you can be supportive of it.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
So anyone who hasn't attended one of our hackathons, those of you who have attended probably know this, but the Abington folks jumped in with both feet. I mean, it was the first year we did it, we had like a dozen people from Abington. And it was the first indicator that there was really something hot going on up there, and they were willing to bring it down to Center City, and that was pretty meaningful. And so I think one of the things that's really interesting about what Abington is doing is they were doing innovation before innovation was cool. Like now it's cool. Everybody's, it's a great buzzword. But it's true. I mean, so you were doing the big lift before anybody was really talking about this in a serious way. Any other questions? Anybody? So, Anthony, can you go back to the hackathon slide for?
For next week.
Oh, for Friday?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So as we wrap up for today, I'll just want to spend a minute talking about next week because it actually involves hackathons. But before that, I just want to thank Jill and Laurie and their good physician who made the trek down. Thank you for enlightening everybody, because I think there's really not been a full appreciation. I mean, we know you're doing cool stuff, but this was, just as it was enlightening for you. Earlier, Jill told me that when they prepared for this, they had to actually sit down and think through about all the things that they had done. And it was equally enlightening for them as it is for us. So thank you so much for taking the time and making it happen. We appreciate it. So we were talking about hackathons a moment ago, including the wonderful participation of Abington in both years. And next week we will have Aisha Khaled, who is one of the founders of the MIT Hackathon. She'll be here next week talking about what's involved in birthing a hackathon. Let me just say that we had to get educated about hackathons in innovation. Banku and I think Glenn, were you there that first year? I don't remember. We had a whole student contingent. I went, Banku went. Banku actually joined a team. It's kind of a funny story, those of you who know Banku in the design program, because we were going to meet at the end of the night and just kind of compare notes. Neither one of us had done one of these before. He joined a team, and I called him at like midnight, and I said, "Are you ready to get together now?" And he said, "They're killing me. We're going to work all night." He worked until 3 o'clock in the morning. I, on the other hand, became a mentor. I still couldn't understand why anybody would want somebody who'd never done this before to mentor. Anyway, it's a great learning experience. And Aisha was a key factor in constructing what MIT has done and what they're replicating literally all over the world. I did one hackathon and mentored one hackathon, and she tried to recruit me to go to Singapore to run their mentoring group. So I urge you to, if you've never done a hackathon, keep an eye out for next fall. We'll be doing our 3rd annual hackathon. There are really cool hackathons happening in other places. The MIT hackathon is happening in May. If you've never done one, I urge you to do it. And if you don't get around to it, put it on your calendar for the fall. We don't have the date picked out yet, but it'll probably be early November. But next week is an opportunity to hear from somebody who is building this from the ground up. So thank you all again for being part of our series. Stick around, there's food and there's more chit chat, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks again for coming.